Let's bring in Pennsylvania Congressman Guy Reschenthaler now, an Iraq War veteran. Great to have you with us, Guy.
Thanks, John. Always good to be back on.
All right, so, I mean, there's a lot to talk about here with this speech, right? And I don't know how much we really want to get into because most of it was just a facade. But that part that we had to watch those Marines, I would love to tip my hat to those guys having to stand there at attention. This is not what they signed up for. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I had a reaction to that. It wasn't just the Marines standing at attention for the 25 or 27 minutes Biden was speaking. It was also the fact that the background was in this deep crimson red. It was completely ironic that you have a guy talking about the dangers of authoritarianism, but he has this backdrop that's reminiscent of every authoritarian regime we can think of in the last 100 years, almost like a police state. So I thought the background was totally out of character with what you'd expect from an American president. But the content of the speech was also alarming, and we can talk about that. But from the content of the speech, John, my big takeaway was that Biden and the left are going back to the Stalinist, Leninist, Marxist playbook of accusing others of what they themselves are guilty of. And we could go through that in the content of the speech, but that entire litany that Biden was saying, he was doing the exact opposite of what he was saying, trying to act like he was uniting us. He was actually dividing us. And he was accusing the right of everything that the radical left has been doing.
Don't you think that's part of the plan here from Joe Biden and the comms team, is to try and put Republicans on the defensive and defend themselves from all this stuff that I think most people realize is just ridiculous? I mean, if you look at the day after response, this isn't changing anyone's mind in central Pennsylvania. There's no one in Harrisburg who woke up this morning who was a MAGA Republican yesterday that said, you know what? Now he's right. I'm going to change my opinion on President Trump and all those things that he brought us, the peace and prosperity that we saw while he was president. Now I'm going to go with Joe Biden. No one's mind was changed last night.
John, you're absolutely right. And what this shows me is that Biden and the Democrats have really given up on getting anybody that's in the middle. They realize that if they're going to withstand the election that is coming in a few weeks, they're going to have to turn out their base. That's why in those remarks, Biden was being very divisive, talking about January 6th, for example, calling out MAGA Republicans, which, by the way, are basically Republicans because anybody who isn't with President Trump has already left, like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. So he's trying to drum up support for the base heading into these midterm elections. But again, the irony and the hypocrisy is rich. When he starts talking about extremism, the people that are being extreme are the Democrats and the far left. It's extreme to suggest that we should pack the Supreme Court. It's extreme to weaponize the DOJ and the FBI. It's extreme to raid the home of a former president on incredibly flimsy evidence. It's authoritarian to have the FBI suppress a story of the president's son before an election and then get intel operatives to say that it's Russian disinformation, knowing it's a lie. So again, the extremism is from them. And then lastly, John, if I could just say this, Biden is trying to deflect. He can't get up there and talk about his record on the economy. He can't get up there and talk about any wins on the international stage.
Right. And that's why he's calling Republicans names. Like we said, that puts them on the defensive. I think something else we also have to talk about are all these disgraced former intelligence officials that are now working as Joe Biden's surrogates on cable news, including Andrew McCabe. He was on CNN last night. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I think people would like to have seen a bit more references to accountability. There really wasn't much talk about what we're doing about those insurrectionists. It was merely calling out the fact that nobody should support an insurrection. So I think it's a positive moment for those folks in law enforcement and in government, but maybe would have liked to have seen more as well.
So this is the guy who was busted for having an extramarital affair with his colleague at the FBI, compromising the entire Crossfire Hurricane investigation, talking to us about accountability? Really?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just the left is so emboldened by this. They can put forward a disgraced FBI agent who repeatedly has told untruths, sometimes under oath into a court, I might add, and that this person is somehow the expert. It's just like that. It's just like the Biden administration and the left keeps referring to the so-called intel community experts
right.
that were wrong on the Russian disinformation information. So it's just more hypocrisy from the left. Luckily, we have Newsmax and other outlets that are separate and apart from the legacy media, because it's a legacy media that lets them get away with this. Thankfully, Newsmax and other outlets can call them on the hypocrisy.
Guys like the former CIA director, General Michael Hayden, basically saying that Republicans are worse than the Taliban or ISIS. This is effectively what he said. And you also have James Clapper, who was busted for lying to Congress. He's supposed to be some sort of guy we're supposed to take seriously. I'm sure these guys are doing fine financially. They can all maybe just go away and leave the country alone. Maybe we could begin to heal. Something else, too, you talked about extremism. We got to talk, too, about the White House press secretary and something that she said about what's extreme. Here she is.
And again, we see majority of Americans who disagree. And so when you are not with where majority of Americans are, then, that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
You know somebody wanted to get out the hook right then and there, Guy, because if we focus on President Biden's approval numbers, which are underwater, 55% disapprove, 45% approve, according to the latest CBS News poll, let's do some deductive reasoning here, Guy, which the White House probably isn't capable of. Based on KJP's own words there, when you're not with what the majority of Americans are with, you're extreme. Ergo, the 45% of voters in that CBS News poll who think Joe Biden's doing a good job are extreme. Sorry, I'm confused.
Right. And John, just couple that with the fact that Biden stood on that stage yesterday talking about democracy. And then you have his press secretary saying that literally the majority of Americans who, like you said, don't approve of Biden's job ratings or job approval, that we're somehow extreme. And let's not forget, Joe Biden talking about democracy. This is a guy that just circumvented Congress by forgiving all this student loan debt. Completely circumvented the will of the people because he jumped over Congress and immediately took administrative action. And he's done this repeatedly, and so is his administration, creating through Green New Deal policies.
Sorry to interrupt, but of course that's after they told us he didn't have the authority to do exactly what he just claims he has the authority to do, based on a law that's supposed to forgive student loan debt for active duty service members post 9/11. So, yeah, there's that. Real quickly, we just wanted to wrap up on Judge Eileen Cannon. What can we expect from the special master hearing? And, if you've seen any of these, this list of the new seized documents that you've seen, just your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that the list of the seized documents and items are completely inappropriate. If they were after classified information, which I don't believe that. I think this was all pretext to embarrass and harass President Trump. But why were they taking articles of clothing? Why were they taking gifts? So it would be appropriate to have a special master appointed. I don't have much faith in this judge. Maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised. But I can tell you this, John, when we retake the House, there has got to be oversight and investigation on this FBI and the top players of the FBI who I believe have turned into political activists, weaponizing and politicizing the DOJ and the FBI. We need to have serious oversight of what went on here. And again, to go back to Biden's speech, again, so rich, the guy that's lecturing us on authoritarianism and fascism, sending out the FBI to raid his very likely political opponent in the next election in 2024.
Initially, it was a little scary with the lights and everything. Of course, it's Dark Brandon up there on stage. But at the end of the day, it's just an angry old man basically telling us, guy, to get off his lawn. Right? That's what we saw last night.
He might be an angry old man, but John, what he's saying is chilling. It's dangerous. It's bad for America. And again, it shows you the contempt and disgust that the ruling class has for everyday Americans.
Yes, but if everyone gets out there and votes, this whole agenda can come to an end. Great to see you, Guy Reschenthaler. Take care.
Thanks, John.